Alright, good evening. It's Jalan with the Paradox Gaming Network, and today we're going to be talking about PvP, specifically raid builds and some group tactics. As always, here's all the different ways to get in touch with me. Discord is easiest. Get me at Jalan, hashtag 8446. We go live on Fridays on Twitch, 1000 Pacific, 1300 Eastern, and 1800 GMT. So this is actually going to be broken into the two parts. Like I said, we're going to talk about sample builds and group tactics. Now, for the sample builds, I want to put a big disclaimer out there. I don't play all of these classes. I have really been pigeonholed into healing and then some healer-esque classes for the last probably 2 years. So all these builds have been shared with me, a little bit of tweaking to make them more effective. So if you need help on how to play them, you're going to have to find somebody who specializes in that style of play. General notes, all of the builds are saved. What you can do is go to Archeage database, and on each screen I have put the save number. All I got to do is throw that in at the end of the link. Big thing for this topic when it comes to raid builds versus solo builds is the concept of synergy. And as you can see from the definition, it's the cooperation of two or more organizations or agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of the separate effects. Now what this means is you could have the best two Darkrunners ever playing together, but if they're not playing smart together, they easily can be taken apart by a team that might not be as geared, but that has good synergy. One of those examples of synergy you're going to see in a lot of these builds is a lot of thwarts and a lot of crippling mires is going to be a lot of stuns. Now, not every build has thwart in it because not every build needs to. Thwart is an AoE effect. A lot of people in their builds are going to have crippling mire, so that's 1 to 3 targets that are going to end up getting stunned. Some other general notes, because I don't want to have to say it on each and every slide. Always burn your preventative buffs and abilities before using Summon Wraith, and that's your Liberation, your Shrug It Off, your Readout, and this is to prevent being disrupted, so you can get the most of your Summon Wraith channel. And then a lot of these builds show having protective wings in them, and this is because Archeage really has become a Mage Ball versus Mage Ball who can drop the biggest meteors on each other. Your raid leader may not need this many protective wings, so he may say some of you or this class get rid of your protective wings and take X. Just make sure you have it unless your raid leader has said that you can dump it because you don't want to be under protected. And also with protective wings, it follows the same rules as Summon Wraith. Burn all of your preventative abilities before starting the channel to limit the amount of interruptions. And then finally, a lot of builds run Songcraft, and I don't know why more people don't put Healing Him into their build, because in a cluster, in a big clump, even without a healing weapon, Healing Him does a lot of healing. So if you're just looking for a point as filler, really consider taking Healing Him and help just add healing to the raid. So we're going to start with initiators. And the reason why I'm going to start with initiators is because without good initiators, your fight's going nowhere. So initiators, you get your little motivational speech right here because your role is thankless. So just realize your goal as an initiator is control and disruption. You are not there for big DPS numbers. You are not there to amass a huge kill count. But you are the most important people in the raid because no good initiation and control and no fight control. This is one of those situations where if you screw up, the whole raid is going to screw up. Because if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're going to push all the way to you. And we're going to talk about that more at the end of the video. So, start off, my favorite initiator to work with is a Skull Knight. The reason why is they can just push all the way to the back line. They have their Mocking Howl, Vicious Implosion, so they pull people to them, they keep them there. They have their own AoE chain, and they go into Wraith. They have the ability to Liberation, Shrug It Off, Readout, Magic Shield, and they're just a nightmare to deal with. The other benefit of a Skull Knight is that if they've pushed all the way to the back, they can catch a group of healers clumped up and imprison them, and then they can either deal with those healers or they can invuln through the imprison time. The other raid is probably going to cripple and fall apart if you catch more than 2 or 3 of their healers in one imprison. That effectively eliminates them from the fight for a good portion of time. Likewise, another really tanky, meaty initiator is the Abolishers. And Abolishers are a nightmare, and let me tell you, I'm a healer, and I hate when an Abolisher pushes through, because I can deal with a Skull Knight, I can deal with a tanky Revenant, which you're going to see in a second, but if an Abolisher pushes through and jumps on me, they're going to keep me from healing, or if, worst case scenario, if I'm still able to heal, I'm going to have to focus on healing myself. So great build to push through. Same sort of concept as the Skull Knight. You push all the way through to the back line. You got your Mocking Howl, your Vicious Implosion, your AoE CC into Wraith. You disrupt healers. But because you're melee, the other thing that you have the ability to do is you have the ability to finish off a healer who's almost dead, who's struggling to get out of the Wraith, who's struggling to just keep themselves or people around them up. Always be looking for that opportune Tiger Strike into a low healer or a group of low healers. And same thing, you can imprison and isolate a small group for a period of time. Finally, you have your tanky Revenants, and I remember that these were the start of really the Mage Wall. These push again all the way to the back line, and you're going to keep hearing that. You push all the way to the back line. They don't have as much defensive capability. They do have the ability, like the other builds do, to teleport out. But these guys are going to come in, do their initial CC combination in a Wraith, and then the rest of the Mage Ball should be pushing all the way on top of them. So they either do a second push to control the fight if they're withdrawing to regroup, or they just roll into the Mage Ball and use their sorcery skills to apply damage with the rest of the raid. So you keep hearing push all the way to the backline. The reason why is your backline is where you keep your strongest healers and your biggest DPS. If your backline gets disrupted, your front line's not getting any heals and they're not getting any support. And a couple of classes do a really good job at being in the backline. The first is a NISHTCLOAK. And this is another one of those builds that if one of these gets into your back line, your healers and your they're just going to struggle. This is why healers, you need to stay up with your Mage Ball. If you get separated by even 10 meters, you're out of AoE range of your Mage Ball, and a NISHTCLOAK is going to jump on you. They're going to cause chaos. They have the same CC chain into Wraith that their peers have, but they have this thwart AoE shaken, and they have the crippling mire. They have the 10-point passive in occultism with this build. So they're going to stun out 3 people. And if it's the back line, it's usually 3 healers that are just afraid to commit. So you've effectively taken out 3 healers. The other one is NISHTCLOAKs come in, they push all the way through, and then they double back. And if the raid they're attacking is using a wings rotation, that Dahuda's wave is going to push everybody around and it's going to break the wings. Now remember, NISHTCLOAKs, you need to get in, you need to cause your chaos, you need to teleport back out for your cooldown reset, and then you just do it all again. Very similar is the BLOODREAVERs, but BLOODREAVERs are a little bit different. They're going to do the same thing, but they don't have the 3-person stun. They don't have the points to go that deep into occultism. They are going to be going in. They are one of the people that goes in and puts the thwart on everyone. But they're also single target harassment. They're kind of a mix between a disruptor and then a closer, and you're going to see closers in a second. So they come in, they push all the way back in, they thwart to mire so that other people can have up to those 3 stuns. And then they break off. Because they're heavy battle rage, they're going to go ahead and break off to finish off low health people or retreating people, especially if that's a healer who gets out of position, or you know that they have a heavy DPS that's almost dead. A BLOODREAVER, that's your job. Your job is to find them and finish them off. Now, you got your Mage Ball DPS, and I only really share one build here, because truthfully, for your Mage Ball DPS, you should be running Revenant, and I know a lot of people are going to say, but what about, just hold on. I know which class you're going to talk about, and I'm going to get there in a second. Your job as a Revenant in the Mage Ball is to be on top of the raid leader, the shot caller, the center of the Mage Ball, because the Mage Ball doesn't work if it gets spread out. The Mage Ball basically moves like a horde of locusts and just hits a group, hits a group, hits a group. If you want to be a good Revenant, you have to learn your God's Whip weaving. Now, this is what limits me as a mage. I don't ask me to teach you how to God's Whip weave. I can't. I tried. I refused. I'm done. I'm not playing mages anymore. The other big thing that I've seen over and over again is share your magic circles. If you're balled up, you all don't have to drop magic circle at every engagement and then have them on cooldown. So if you see a magic circle down and you can shift 1 meter and stand in it, shift 1 meter over and get in it. That way your magic circle is up on the next push, especially fights that turn into a lot of push, regroup, advance, have to pull back. The group that can sustain the highest magic DPS is going to be the group that wins. The next group are the HK DPS, and I call those the Hunter Killers. These are the people that don't hang out inside the Mage Ball, that they hang out on the fringes, and they're kind of like the solo artists. And first and foremost is the Spell Singer. Now, I know what you're going to say is the Spell Singer should be in the Mage Ball. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. I think that a Spell Singer is a class that it's strong enough on its own to hold its own. It hangs out on the outside in stealth, and then when it can, it moves into position to drop that big meteor on either the back half of their raid, or if it's an opportune time, to drop it right in the middle of the chaos. They can cover the back sides and back and sides of your own raid. If you see a lot of DRs or archers have broken off, you have the ability to take out solo targets probably easier than anybody else. You also have the ability to follow up on kills with your shadow play. You can maneuver into a good position. And then remember, you have backdrop to stealth and then move to a new position. You're going to get noticed if you're constantly popping out of stealth and dropping big AoE, meteor, chain lightning, arc lightning, and then disappearing again. So never appear from the same place twice. Basically treat yourself like a sniper and move a lot. Now, another one that is big and useful is Darkrunners. Now, I know people are going to say, what the hell are you talking about, Darkrunners in group combat? Yes, you need to be geared to be a Darkrunner in group combat. But don't discount a Darkrunner who knows what they're doing, because they're going to, A, get in your back line, and they're going to harass your healers and your mages, and then they're going to get out. And basically a disruption to your back line affects how much healing is going to happen to your Mage Ball and your front line. In order to stay useful to the raid as a whole, Darkrunners, they pick their spot. You're not going to just go in right at the beginning with the Mage Ball. You're going to be hanging out on the side, and then when everything else is going on and everybody's slowed, that's when you're going to do your dive in, your whirlwind slash for a lot of trips, your tiger strike into a group of healers, and then your backdrop out and you're gone. When you're in with the Mage Ball, because sometimes you have to roll in for protection, your build has lasso in it, so that you can lasso out a key target, interrupt a channel, pull a big healer who's trying to backpedal, pull them back to the front into the chaos. Also, this build is just for getting in, doing damage, isolating out single individuals, and then stealthing and waiting to your cooldowns. This is just a simple Darkrunner template. I'm not going to try to teach you Darkrunner. If you're playing Darkrunner in raid combat, you should be a good enough Darkrunner that your raid leader's like, okay, yes, you can run Dark. You can get invited to this raid as a Darkrunner. If you're not that good, don't be surprised if your raid leader says, no, I want you to run this build, even if you don't have the right gear to support it, because a CC mage with low magic attack is still better than a bad Darkrunner. And finally, I know there's a lot of archers out there, and I'm just picking one archer build. I'm picking Ebonsong for the simple reason of you got a little bit of spare utility with the Songcraft, running the Zeal procs, but you have this build allows you to basically long range harass healers. And remember, healers are gonna panic when they're pressured, and they'll forget to heal anybody. It changed a little bit with some of the changes to our abilities as healers, but if you can just harass a healer with endless arrows, long distance shots, snipe them, get that stalker's mark on them if you can, it's just going to affect the healer's ability to be effective. Do a lot of tab targeting to find channelers and save that concussive arrow to break a channel if it's the opportune time. And then also remember, your job is to be stealthing, working the edges, and taking out out of position targets or retreating targets, jumping on soothsayers that are trying to res. One good tip I did read for archers that I want to share with you, especially in water combat, and this is a nightmare for water combat, swim down. Be below the fight at almost your max range and shoot up into the combat. A lot of people are going to overlook a single target. They're going to be like, oh, I can't get to there and it's not a lot of damage. Believe me, an archer that's not being harassed is going to put out a lot of damage, a lot of harassment damage. Healers. Now, I'm a healer and you'd expect a big long section on healers, and I'm not going to talk about healers in this video. I talked about healers exclusively in a different video, so that would be the video to go to and develop your own raid builds. Healers, your job, believe it or not, is to defend your mages. Don't try to be a superstar, but realize that if you cover your mages and you're up on top of your mages are covering you. Believe it or not, you are safest in the center of the mage ball. I know a lot of healers are constantly afraid to be up in there, like to be up in the shit of the fight. But where do you want to be? Do you want to be 10 meters behind the mage ball outside of the AoE of your revenants? Or do you want to be right up on your revenant's ass where anybody that comes in to attack you is instantly going to get hit by that summon wraith and get slowed down? If somebody jumps on your mage ball or your revenant, even if it's just you and a revenant, throw your skewer down. Save your skewer to save your mage, and then let your mage do the CC work. 2 or more healers together, you shouldn't be trying to use skewer to do damage. That's not your job. Your job is to heal people. Just like the initiators, their job is thankless. Yeah, healers, you're going to go into a massive fight and maybe come out with 200 honor if you're doing your job right. I'm guilty of this. I play a frontline initiating cleric, but if you're doing your job right as a healer, you're walking out of a fight with like 20% of the top person's honor because you're just pulling 1 to 4 or 4 off each kill they make. Another common problem I see is more than one person playing Ode to Recovery. The only person that should be playing Ode to Recovery is the highest healing power healer. Everybody else should be spot healing, AoE healing, taking care of, watching, looking, tabbing through the enemy. That whole thing about being in the mage ball, ever since we got Quake Antithesis, there is zero excuse for you to not be up in the mage ball because you're healing and AoE damaging all at the same time. Alright, part 2 of today's video is on group tactics. Now, up on the ParadoxGaming.net website, I've had a PvP document up there for 2 years. And what I want to say is that clearly people haven't read it. Clearly the best PvP guilds and the best PvP groups already do these things. But the new players, I don't know what the problem is. Your death is a trip to the newie. This is not a full loot drop game. You can die and pay a couple of dollars in repair fees and you lose a little honor. But if you're doing things right, if you're always being aggressive, if you're always pushing, if you're in the right spot, I promise you are going to die a lot less. So if you're really, really new, go to my website and look at that document. What I've done here is I've just pulled out some key parts for those people that really like videos instead. So the first rule of group combat is that you have to have proper placement. Now over here, and for these videos, reds are the initiators. They're the aggressive party. This group right here is all set to go. They've got their initiators up front, their healers in the middle. This group over here is either caught by surprise or they've got the timid people, and you all know these people. Like here, you're trying to get that ball set up, and you've got those people who just won't push into the ball. Well, this right here is those, you know, those Darkrunners I talked about, those Ebon Songs, those Spell Singers. You're toast. You're done. They're just going to come down and they're just going to just chip away at this whole back line. Meanwhile, this big angry swarm, they're coming. They're going to come and they're going to come together. Now you see I've labeled the initiators and they've started their push, and these guys are going to push, and these guys are going to push, and these guys are going to push. And so you're going to be backpedaling. If you're the blue raid, the best call you could make right now is disengage, backpedal, whatever. Just you're gonna die. You're not set up right. So to give you a fair shot, you're lined up, you're face to face, and you got your skirmishing lines, and you've got your two initiators from the red side. They push in and they stop right here. And this is absolutely 100% wrong. If you stop right here, then your raid is gonna stop all right here. And you're fighting on top of their initiators, and they're going to be the ones that just have free cast. They're big mages in the back half of the ball. Just have free cast on you now. You blew the initiative. What you need to do is that push to the back line, get all the way to the back line. These healers are not going to know what they're doing, and these guys are going to cripple and fall. As soon as they don't have heals, they're done. Because if you're all the way in your backline, guess what? Your healers are all trained to be on top of you. Your raid leader is on top of you with the mage ball. People don't know what to do when you run through them. I don't know what it is. If you're insulted, if you're scared, if you're offended, push through them. I absolutely hate it right now. I'm going to say on conviction, for the east side, it'll be me and Misbehaving. And we're two clerics, and we push in with our initiator, and it's literally 3 people have pushed through the front line, and I turn around, and there's like 19 people beating the shit out of a Skull Knight. What are you doing on the Skull Knight? All in all, the Skull Knight is not big damage. He's not there to be the big damage. Get off of him. If he is on the list of initiators, you shouldn't be killing him till last. You should be up on your initiator. That's where you belong. Alright guys, and to close up today's episode on group PvP, there's really 2 rules for group PvP. Be in the right build, and be in the right place. If your place is on top of the raid leader, be on top of the raid leader. All of you healers out there, all you low score mages who are just afraid to die, I promise you, you will last longer inside the mage ball than you will hanging out at the back. In fact, I want to start to see all of the timid people right in the middle of the pack of wolves. I want you to be the hungriest wolf in that pack, right in the middle, out for blood. You will survive longer, I promise you. If you think you suck at PvP, then make the commitment to practice. You got 5 entry arenas for the balanced arenas, 5 entries for the unbalanced arenas. You can queue free for all, and then starting on 6th December, you are going to have more than enough reasons to queue for arena because you're going to want those Kyrios medals. So this week's episode was on group PvP. There will not be a solo PvP episode. That is all on you to figure out. I expect this video is probably going to ruffle some feathers, so I am looking forward to a ton of good comments, so just leave them in the section below. Hey, you. Yes, you. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. Hit that subscribe button. Watch a couple of more videos. Go check out our website.